Need a Wi-Fi scanner and survey tool that won't kill your budget? Try Wi-Fi Scanner for Windows. It's an all-in-one tool to explore Wi-Fi access points, test speed, and perform active and passive surveys. Built by Wi-Fi engineers for Wi-Fi engineers. Visit wifiscanner.com to start your free trial today.
Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send podcast. This is Francois, your host, and today I'm here with Roel. Hey Roel, how are you?
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, it's nice to spend some time with you and record a podcast. It feels like it's been a while,
Yeah.
and today we actually want to kind of continue the series on WPA3. Last time we talked about WPA3 SAE with authentication with a password, and today we wanted to focus on WPA3 Enterprise. So look at how the enterprise is going to evolve with WPA3. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about it. If you can, watch the video. It's going to be a little bit more insightful for you because we're going to show some of the official specification documents. We're going to show some beacon frames. We're going to show some packet captures. So if you get the opportunity to actually watch the video, it would be awesome. If you don't, you can always go back to the show notes and we'll be sharing some visuals for you to go back and take a look at later
Yeah.
on.
It's going to get pretty technical. And I think this is an important topic for all of us as we try to understand, what's the future of our Wi-Fi networks and what the different security types are going to be, how you're going to transition to those and what the differences are. So I think being able to understand WPA3 is going to be very important in today's environments.
Mm-hmm. And do you have experience working or deploying it on campus on your side?
Yeah, I have it deployed for EduRoam, but only for specific buildings. So we're testing it out because our environment is BYOD, and we started a slower rollout just to see what kind of complaints we're gonna get. And I do happen to be talking about that at WPC Prague. So hopefully I got some good material there, and by then I'm hoping we get the whole campus on WPA3 Enterprise.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, today it's going to be pretty technical, but maybe at the end we can circle back on a real use case on how that's going to help us. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is take a look at the WPA3 specifications from the Wi-Fi Alliance. So I'm going to show you on my screen. And this document, it's the exact same one that we used last time. If I go back at the top, you'll see it's a official document from the Wi-Fi Alliance. It's called WPA3 specifications. You can get it if you just fill up a form on their website. So just like last time, we'll put a link in the description for it. And if we scroll down in this document, you'll have a section on WPA3 Enterprise. And so here they're telling us there that they've defined 3 mode of operations for WPA3 Enterprise. The first one is WPA3 Enterprise only. The second one is WPA3 Enterprise Transition. And the third one is WPA3 Enterprise 192-bit. Okay. So just like last time, how we had like WPA3 SAE only and SAE transition, we kind of have the similar format here with WPA3 Enterprise, where we're going to have a mode where it's only the API and the clients will only support WPA3. And then we're going to have another mode where it will also support WPA2 Enterprise, so we can be also compatible with older devices that don't necessarily support WPA3 right now.
Yeah. And I think that's still a tricky thing with dealing with transition mode, because some clients, the older ones, or maybe poorly implemented drivers, they may freak out about seeing another AKM instead of just seeing the WPA2. So if you have devices that still are unable to join with the transition mode, that might be the reason why.
But I think with WPA3 Enterprise, I think we will see less driver issues on the client sides versus WPA2, because, and the reason I say this is because, even with WPA2, we could have different AKM suites
AKMs, yeah,
defined.
that's right.
Yeah.
So that would be
Which
more
wasn't
like
the case.
OWE or
Yeah.
yeah. We haven't
Yeah.
I haven't seen that issue arise in my environment where because I did start off with transition mode, WPA3 Enterprise transition mode, and I
Okay.
didn't see any issues, or at least none were reported. But when I decided to just go to WPA3 Enterprise only, I still didn't see anyone
Okay.
complain
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, and that's, I think, with WPA2 personal, some devices were on, like some device drivers were only coded to use the first AKM because we have one. So when we came up with the transition mode and with WPA3 and we started to propose more than one, if the client driver was just coded to use the first one in the list might not be the one they're compatible with. So that's why it created some issues. But with enterprise, like in the past, we could have multiple AKM suites. So maybe the drivers were already programmed to kind of choose the right one, not just the first one. And I think that's going to help us a little bit having less driver issues.
Yeah, so be sure to have your drivers updated
Yeah.
once you start really
Yeah.
using WPA3.
So if we take a look at what these specifications are for each of the modes, the first one, the enterprise only mode, WPA3 enterprise only mode, what the specifications are telling us is that the AP shall must enable at least the AKM, which is called number 5, which is the 802.1x with SHA-256 in the BSS. So that's the one that needs to be advertised by the AP, and the client should support it as well. It should select it, actually. And then it should not enable AKM suite number 1, right, which is 802.1x with SHA-1. So they don't want the SHA-1 to be enabled or used at all
Yeah.
when it's just Enterprise 3 only.
Yeah, better security selections here, and keep note of these terms like shall. When they say shall, it's really a must. You must enable. You must not enable. And so that's common language you'll see in even the standards, and that's how this is how we determine if it's mandatory or not mandatory.
Exactly. And then something else is the MFP. So MFP, just like for the WPA3 SAE, MFP is mandatory and required. So you have 2 bits. You have capable and required in the actual frames. So both of them has to be enabled if you want to use WPA3 Enterprise only. So MFP is pretty much mandatory
Yep.
on both the AP and the clients with the WPA3.
Yeah, and
Across the board.
that feature's been around for so long, and I remember being in some environments where if we did enable management frame protection, some clients just wouldn't work properly on that Wi-Fi network.
Yes. So that's for the enterprise only. Now, if we look at the transition mode, you'll see that you could also with the if you use the transition mode, on top of advertising the 802.1x with SHA-256 AKM, you can also advertise the 802.1x with SHA-1 AKM as well. Okay. So you can have both of them advertised, and both of them could be selected and used by the client stations. So that's where the I guess the backward compatibility comes in, is that you allow the clients to use different AKM suites for the connection. And also for the MFP, you'll see that it's required for MFP to be for the AP and the clients to be MFP capable, but it's not required to be used by the clients and the AP, right? So MFP is not required when you use the transition mode. So most likely it's going to be if the device is WPA3 compatible, it might not be used if it's not.
Now, have you seen a scenario, Francois, where if you enable transition mode, the client is capable, but it chooses not to do MFP and just opts to use SHA-1 instead?
I haven't seen that. I've only tested with my iPhone. So I didn't do extensive testing. I just did a couple of testing to prepare for this episode. So no, I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, I'll have to check my notes to see if when I had a transition mode enabled, if clients were still selecting SHA-1, even though they were capable of doing SHA-256.
Yeah, that would be interesting to get the stats.
Yep.
Yeah. Because if you don't have much, SHA-1 clients, you could just move to WPA3-Enterprise only and be okay with it and get better security, I guess. Okay, and the last one defined in the specs is the WPA3-Enterprise with a 192-bit mode. So this one has been defined because some organization, they actually required a little bit more strength into the encryption and the cipher switch used by the encryption method in Wi-Fi. And so in this mode, they actually require specific IP methods to be used, and you have a couple of examples here of which ones must be used. But it's pretty much AES encryption with SHA-384. That's what's going to come onto all of them. So it's pretty much a stronger encryption is required if you use WPA3-Enterprise 192-bit mode. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. So 192-bit mode, the really high sensitive environments, that it even defines it there as government, the defense, and industrial type environments. Most of us will probably not enable 192-bit mode, but it's there if you really want to have higher security for your Wi-Fi network.
Or if you have some specific requirements to, like security policies or stuff like this. So that's for the specifications. Now, if we go and configure these networks, and actually I have I did it in a Mist environment here where I configured a couple of SSIDs, one WPA3-Enterprise, the other one Enterprise Transition. And if I show it to you, it's very similar to configuring, an SSID for WPA2-Enterprise. It's actually the exact same steps, right? You choose the encryption. So in my case, or I guess your security type, in my case, WPA3, and then you define, your radius server, right? So it's very, very similar in terms of configurations to what we're used to with WPA2 Enterprise.
I think one thing to note too is some vendors will present this a little bit differently, but because you have 6 gigahertz enabled, you must use WPA3 when you're doing 802.1x. So that's why you may not see like a WPA2 if you're not doing the other bands, right? Which you probably shouldn't do it that way, but if you were to do 6 gigahertz only, you'll see specific like those security types kind of narrowed down to just WPA3 or OWE.
Exactly. And one thing to note as well here is I had fast roaming configured here with .11r, which is important because we'll see that in the beacon frame that does modify some of the AKM suites we have available. So this is for the enterprise, only mode. And if I want to make it transition, all I have to do is check that box here. That's the only difference.
Which would mean you would land on 5 gigahertz if...
Yes, if that would be for 5 gigahertz only, right? 6 gigahertz would be only WPA3, but then on 5 gigahertz, it would be both WPA3 and WPA2.
So Mist here is doing a lot of magic on the back end side of things that you don't see. Normally, some systems you would, depending on how it's all programmed here, right? You sometimes have to create the separate SSIDs if you're going to have like a 5 and 6 gigahertz SSID with 2 different security types.
Yes, you're right. That's right.
We'll be right back to the episode. Do you need a tool that offers seamless Wi-Fi analysis and troubleshooting? Look no further to Wi-Fi Scanner for Windows. It's a versatile 3-in-1 tool discover Wi-Fi access points with ease, assess speed and performance accurately, and conduct detailed active and passive Wi-Fi surveys seamlessly. It works perfectly with the internal card of your Windows device. The Wi-Fi Scanner Copilot feature is ready to troubleshoot common issues related to connectivity, performance, security, and configurations. Broaden your reach by analyzing remote networks with Optify and WLAN PI integration. Dive into beacon information or delve deeper by opening wireless PCAP files. Visit wifiscanner.com and download a free trial today.
So now, if we look at the Wi-Fi Explorer and we look at the beacon frames, I've kind of filtered them here, so we only have two. But you can see that we have the WPA2-Enterprise SSID and we have the WPA3-Enterprise Transition SSIDs. And if I actually select both of them and compare the RSN element, which is here, the Robust Security Network Information element, you can see, what is different between the two, between WPA3 only versus WPA3 transition mode. And by the way, that feature in Wi-Fi Explorer is awesome to just be able to compare two beacon frames and see what's different. It's really cool.
It makes it so easy to just take a look at an environment and see whether or not it's configured properly. Why there's two different SSIDs, why a device works with one but not the other. And you can just select the two SSIDs and see, oh, okay, this is why it's different. One's transition mode, and what you're showing here is how that differs between the two using the two colors.
Yes, exactly. We have two different shades of yellow. So if we look at it, we can see that the pairwise cipher suite is the same, right? We're still doing .1x, 802.11. So that doesn't change across WPA3 or WPA3 and transition. And now what would be different would be the AKM suite. This is what you have here, the Auth Key Management Suite list. And you can see that both of them are advertising number 5. So both of them are advertising the SHA-256 that we had in the specification. One of them, so the transition mode, is actually also advertising the version 1, 802.1x. So this would be what we would be advertising if we're using WPA2 Enterprise. So that's what we see in the transition mode. And in the non-transition mode, in the WPA3 Enterprise only, you can see that it's also advertising an AKM called FT over 802.1x, which is a fast transition. And that's because I had the fast transition enabled in my configurations. That's why it's advertising that one. So you can kind of see that, it complies with what we see in the specification, which is good. It should. So we can kind of see it here directly in the.
This is how you verify whether the vendor is following the specification.
All vendors are following specifications.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. And then you can see also that the management frame protection, you can see that the difference that, one is set to required and the other one is only set to capable, but not to required. Yeah. So you can kind of see the difference here.
Yeah, and just note that on the bottom, it tells you which SSID is which color, just so.
Yes.
Just so if you're trying to follow.
Yes. So this is, and then, you can see that for the WPA3 Enterprise, we have a couple more lines related to the group management, cipher suites, and the PMK ID count. I think the PMK ID count might be for the fast transition. The group management, not too sure. Maybe it's different. Not too sure about this, but maybe it's different with WPA3 only. Yeah, so this is the beacon. We will probably put screenshots of this. Maybe we can include a PCAP as well, so you guys can play with that.
Yeah, we'll include that into the show notes, and you'll be able to download them. It's good practice. So if you have Wireshark, I don't know if Francois, you're going to provide the Wireshark, not the Wireshark file, but the Wi-Fi Explorer export as well. If people have Wi-Fi Explorer.
Yes, I can do that. No problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So the last thing I want to show here is, opening Wireshark, taking a look at the frame exchange when a client actually connects to a WPA3 Enterprise network. So to set that up, I actually used as a radius server, I used a Gem Cloud. So there is a Jump Cloud. It's like a web, I guess, a web portal that you can use to. Oh,
Yeah.
you saw my shared secret.
Oh no.
Oh no, for my. So it's like a portal, and you can set up your, your radius server in the cloud. So if you don't have like something in your lab that you can use to set up as a radius server, you can use Gem Cloud. And Mist, they actually have like a documentation on the website that shows you how to do it with Mist. So I'll put it in the show notes as well, so you guys can see it. But this
Yeah.
is how I've done it, so I could test it. And then I took my iPhone and I connected to that WPA3 Enterprise network. And what I'm showing you here in Wireshark, it's pretty much the frame exchange. And what I want to outline here is that the frame exchange between WPA2 Enterprise and WPA3 Enterprise is very similar, right? It's the same frame exchange pretty much. So it's not like with WPA3 SAE where we actually had a difference in the frames exchanged during the association process. Here, when you transition from WPA2 to WPA3 Enterprise, the frames exchange is the same. It's just the content of the frame that's changing, which also explains why we don't have as many issues as we do with WPA3 SAE. Because the process doesn't change that much. So you can see that, we have the probe request, probe response. We have the authentication request, authentication response. We have the association request, the association response. And then you have, all of these QoS data frame you see. These are, the EP exchange. You can see we're setting up a TLS tunnel and then exchanging the authentication information. And then you can see that we have the four-way handshake at the end, just like with WPA2 Enterprise, and then we're connected. So that's really what I wanted to outline looking at the packets, is that, it's exactly the same frame exchange from WPA2 to WPA3 Enterprise.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really great to see it from a Wireshark perspective because you see the frame exchanges. So you see exactly how long it's going to take, where an issue might arise. And it doesn't look like much when you configure it, but there's a lot happening in the back end.
And here, if I look at the association request, it looks like my device is using the FT over 82.1. So it shows the AKM suite number 3 to connect to the network in this case. So this is telling me that my phone both supports WPA3 and fast transition, right? So you can also validate, like if you were to do transition mode, this is where you would validate if, the device actually chooses WPA3 versus WPA2. You'll compare if it's using AKM suite number 5 versus number 1. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Hopefully I'm not just throwing a whole bunch of acronyms.
No, I think people will really understand it after this, especially how you've broken it down, seeing it from the specification point of view, seeing a configuration point of view, seeing it from an application like Wi-Fi Explorer, which really simplifies what we're looking at here, which is then Wireshark. Wireshark would be the most complex portion of trying to analyze it, but it's pretty much the raw data is what you're seeing, the raw exchange of frames. And by learning this process, you understand where exactly troubleshooting might need to occur. And also you can confirm whether or not something's working properly. And of course, if you're going for your CWAP, this is where something like this would be useful as well.
Yeah, you could replicate the same and then do the test on your end with your own devices. So this one, the one I've just opened here while you were talking, is the transition mode. So same device, my iPhone connecting to the other SSID, the WPA3 Enterprise transition mode. And if we look at the frame exchange, same thing. It's the exact same frame exchange. right? But now if I look at the association request, we'll see into the RSN information element, we'll see which AKM they chose. And you can see that in this case, they chose AKM SHA-256. So they chose the WPA3 AKM suite. So this is telling me that my phone supports it and is using it, I guess, in this case.
You've got a good phone.
Yeah, so far it's been good. Good to me. And here you have in Wireshark, it gives you the number 5. Wireshark actually translated to you, so it doesn't give you the number 5 right away. They translate it to SHA-256. So sometimes you have to kind of, do a little bit more drilling if you want to actually map what Wireshark is giving you to what the specification documents is giving you here. But, you can usually decipher it by just looking at reading the entire sentence, I guess, because here in the specs they tell you.
Yeah, you see the number 5, and then you see what it actually is. And I think that's going to be an excellent exam question for CWAP.
Yes. Yeah, so this is pretty much what I did there. I didn't have really any issue. I just tested with my phone because I didn't have a lot of time to prepare all of this. But now that I have it set up in my lab, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to connect any of the devices I have to that network and see if I'm getting into issues. And if I am, then I'll just do packet capture and see what's happening. Yeah, what I wanted to mention as well is, and we'll put it into the show notes, but Rasika, he has like a really good, as often, right? As always, I should say, he has a really good blog post on WPA3-Enterprise where he goes through the process of, the frame, the beacon, kind of similar to what we did, but he configured it into a Cisco environment. So if you're more familiar with the Cisco environment, maybe you can take a look at his blog as well and try to see if you can reproduce it in your lab.
I think it's great to compare all the different vendors because, again, the language can be different, the options can be different, and so that's where I think being able to understand what you're gonna be getting into, especially if you might be someone who dives into multiple environments. At least if you understand the core fundamentals of WPA3, the knobs will just be in different places, and you'll understand, okay, when I now look at it from Wi-Fi Explorer or from Wireshark, I know what these different knobs mean when you look at the frame exchanges.
And I also think that if you understand this, you can test it in a lab. And then if you're in the position of, you might be in a position where, your boss is asking you, can we transition to WPA3? What does it involve for us? Is it impactful? What are the risks? All of these questions that we get from management. If you better understand it, then you'll be able to have a better idea of what it will mean for your environment. And then if you do have a problem when it's transitioned, then you'll have a better idea of how to troubleshoot it as well. So it could
even have a good migration plan for those devices.
Yeah, exactly. So to bring all of this back into the real world is, what's happening right now is that, people who refresh their Wi-Fi infrastructure, they usually go with 6 gigahertz compatible APs. And on 6 gigahertz, we have to use WPA3. There's no other alternative. And that kind of forces us to kind of transition to WPA3 on the other frequency bands. And this is when we need to understand if, our infra is ready, our devices will be ready for it. And this is where you can kind of test.
I would even say even down to the end user experience, because one of the things I was testing was, okay, Edgerome, we have that as WPA2-Enterprise. If I change the configuration of the SSID, will it prompt the user saying, hey, the security type changed on this SSID. Are you sure you want to keep using this? Like, I know I've seen those types of messages before, and that's what I was trying to get ahead of when I started doing a slower rollout. But I mean, I haven't heard from from anyone. So now I guess my rollout will become a little bit wider. But that was my concern, was end users not being aware of the change, and then kind of being afraid of, wait a minute, am I connecting to the right SSID? Because I'm getting this warning now, and then tickets start being submitted. But so far, I haven't seen that personally on the testing that I've done. So far, we might be good.
And what do you see in terms of statistics on the controller or the management platform? Do you see that you have a lot of people successfully connect to WPA3 Enterprise?
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing it pretty successful. People are connecting. I look at the SLAs on Mist, and I don't see problems with associations. But a lot of it, I do kind of rely on tickets as well, because I'm not sure if everything is being recorded or entirely being presented in the way that I want it to. But yeah, again, I haven't heard from anybody having those problems, which is a good sign. So I have my directives to just keep moving forward. And I keep snapshots of, all right, here's the devices. What are they joining to? Is it Edgerome? Is it what kind of security type are they using? Because I do see, when I had it on transition mode, I would see devices. I'm trying to pull it up as we talk, but I would see devices not use. For example, I had it on transition mode, and I would see a lot of devices just picking WPA2. And so I was like, okay, well, if there's no problem with the AKM, what if I just enable it for WPA3 only, and then see? And then when I did that, there was one user who was on an Apple device, would always use WPA2. The moment I did WPA3 only, they were on WPA3 SHA-256. So the device is supported. It's just a matter of, will the device use it? And I don't know how those devices decide, right? It's like, I'll keep using this because I'm already using it, kind of thing. I don't know. So that's the interesting part. And maybe that's kind of that's where the mystery is on the device side. And for some reason, no one wants to talk about it. Not from the device manufacturers, but.
We'll be looking forward to your presentation in Prague, I guess. See.
Hopefully I'll have some good meat to the presentation that'll help people out. Because what I'm really worried about is how smooth it's going so far. And so in my presentation, I'm going to be like, well, it was smooth. I just enabled it. And
it will be rainbow and...
It's like the absolute well, of course, now that I'm saying it, I'm going to jinx myself, and I'll probably get a ticket while we're recording this, and someone will be like, hey, it's not working.
Well, now you have a theme for your slides. It could be pink with rainbows everywhere. Yeah. And
now, the one place I am concerned with enabling this could be some devices that are older and kind of like on the edge of being IoT. Like they may support Enterprise, WPA2 Enterprise, but I'm not sure if they support WPA3 Enterprise. And so I don't know how many of those devices are laying around. And where I'm holding back is the School of Medicine side, because they tend to have a lot of older devices. And so I've been doing a slow rollout of OWE and WPA3, avoiding School of Medicine until I can talk to some people and understand what kind of devices are out there.
Awesome. All right. Well, so I hope this information is useful to you. If you haven't listened to part 1, I would invite you to do that as well. And then if you have some stories you want to share about migrating to WPA3 Enterprise, feel free to reach out to us. You can come on the show. Or you can just share it with us on Slack, on Twitter. So feel free to keep the conversation going, and I guess we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Need a Wi-Fi scanner and survey tool that won't kill your budget? Try Wi-Fi Scanner for Windows. It's an all-in-one tool to explore Wi-Fi access points, test speed, and perform active and passive surveys, built by Wi-Fi engineers for Wi-Fi engineers. Visit WiFiScanner.com to start your free trial today.